These narrow ruts were once a part of the Oregon Trail, the Route 66 of its day. In 1852, a shocking truth emerged about the Oregon Trail. Pioneers were actually deadlier than the people they feared most. While 362 immigrants died from Indian attacks, settlers killed 426 Native Americans. But that wasn't the trail's darkest secret. Buffalo stampedes wiped out entire wagon trains without a trace. One herd of 75,000 animals ran for over an hour, leaving nothing recognizable behind. Medical kits contained more poison than cure. And the real killer, it wasn't what anyone expected. The truth will change everything you thought you knew. The Oregon Trail was not just a road to a new life. For many, it was a slow march into a nightmare. Between 1849 and 1855, Calera turned the westward journey into a rolling graveyard. This invisible killer claimed somewhere between 6,000 and 12,000 lives across all western trails. The year 1852 was the worst of all. More people traveled the trail that year than any other, packing the route so tightly that the disease spread like wildfire. Calera moved fast. Could take a healthy person in the morning and leave them buried before sundown. George Tribble, who made the journey in 1852, said that for 400 m the road was almost a solid graveyard. At one campground he counted 71 graves. Of his own family's 10 members, only 5 lived to see Oregon. The Friel family's story shows just how ruthless the disease could be. In June 1852, Martha Fell wrote a letter home. It told of loss after loss in only days. Francis Fell died on June 4th. Maria Fell on June 6th. Polly Kasner on June 9th. Lafayette Friel on June 10th. Elizabeth Fell, wife of Amos, on June 11th. Her baby on June 17th. 7 lives gone in 13 days. The symptoms were cruel. First came crushing stomach pain, then violent diarrhea and vomiting. Within hours, the body dried out from the inside. The skin would shrivel and turn blue. One moment a pioneer might be laughing over breakfast. By nightfall they could be under the earth. Water was the silent weapon. Streams along the Platte River drew thousands of immigrants, but with no sewage systems they became poison. Martha Fell warned others to never drink from roadside springs or sunken wells. She knew too well what that water could do. If disease didn't take you, the rivers might. Between 1840 and 1860, about 300 immigrants drowned trying to cross them. In 1850 alone, 37 people died at the Green River. There were no dams to tame the current. The Kansas, North Platte, and Columbia rivers ran wild, deep, and unpredictable. A single mistake could kill an entire family. Wagons overturned in the current. Oxen panicked and people were swept away. Wheels jammed in muddy riverbeds like quicksand. In seconds the water could swallow a wagon whole. And even the safe choice could turn deadly. Ferries charged up to $16 per wagon. That was nearly the cost of an ox and about 3% of the $500 needed for the entire trip. One ferry operator made $65,000 in a single summer. John B. Hill remembered the day a ferryman overloaded the boat. The water came within 2 in of spilling over. As they neared the far bank, the boat dipped hard. Hill was certain they would all be drowned. They were lucky. Many others were not. The sound was unlike anything else on the trail. A slow grinding creak followed by a scream that cut through the wind. Wagon wheels crushing human flesh left a mark not only on the ground but on the memories of everyone who saw it. These accidents happened again and again during the 2,000-mile journey west, claiming more lives than Native American attacks, wild animals, or even many diseases. They weren't freak events. They were deadly mistakes that kept repeating. The numbers tell the truth. 1 out of every 17 immigrants died along the trail, and wagon accidents were among the top 3 killers, right? Alongside disease and firearm mishaps, the wagons themselves were monsters on wheels. Fully loaded, they weighed up to 2,500 pounds. They had no brakes, no safety features. Once those iron-rimmed wheels started moving, nothing could stop them. Children often paid the highest price. Many died simply trying to climb aboard. While the wagon was in motion, in 1847, 8-year-old Richard Harvey tried to get into his family's wagon. He slipped from the tongue and the wheels rolled over his head. Fellow traveler Absalom Hardin wrote in his journal that the boy was stone dead within seconds. The crude spelling made it even more real, as if the writer's hands were shaking when he put it to paper. The very first recorded wagon wheel death was 6-year-old Joel Jasper Hembry on July 18, 1843 near Bedtick Creek in Wyoming. He fell from the wagon tongue and both wheels ran over him. He survived for a day in terrible pain before dying on July 19. His family buried him the next day, carving his name into stone. That grave is the oldest ever found along the Oregon Trail. For the rare survivors, the aftermath could be just as cruel. One boy's crushed leg went untreated for 9 days. When someone with medical knowledge finally examined him, gangrene had already set in. His limb was swarming with maggots. Families could not stop for proper care. The trail kept moving, and so did they. Then there were firearms. On May 13, 1841, a young man named John Shotwell became the first recorded firearms fatality on the Oregon Trail. His own surname seemed to predict his fate. According to pioneer John Bidwell's diary, Shotwell picked up his gun with the muzzle pointed toward him. It fired, striking him near the heart. He lived for about an hour, fully aware of what had happened before he died. This tragedy was only the beginning of a deadly pattern that made firearm accidents the second leading cause of injury and death on the long road west. The amount of firepower carried by some wagon trains was staggering. One Oregon Trail expedition of 72 wagons brought along 260 pistols and rifles, nearly a ton of lead, and more than a 000 lb of gunpowder. These weapons traveled over rough land for months, often in the hands of people who had never been trained to use them. There were no safety locks, no protective cases, and few understood how easily they could go off. The results were bloody and frequent. In 1849, a man known as Mr. S. pulled his gun from a wagon, cocking it by mistake and shooting Mr. Twitty in the knee. Near Scottsbluffs, another pioneer died after the pistol in his breast pocket went off, destroying his jaw. In 1850, John Wood described a gruesome moment when a young man named German accidentally fired his weapon. The ball tore through his chest and lodged near his shoulder blade. Wood recalled how the man fell, rolled, screamed, and bled like an animal. He died within hours. Flintlock rifles were among the most dangerous. They had to be carried at half-cock with the frizzen closed to hold the priming powder. If the lock mechanism was worn or faulty, the gun could fire at any time. The exhaustion of long days made things worse. Tired travelers handled multiple weapons in crowded camps, creating constant risk. It was not uncommon for people to shoot themselves, their companions, or even their own draft animals. The cruel truth was that keeping rifles unloaded was far safer, but that also meant being defenseless in a sudden attack. This impossible choice created a deadly balance between safety and survival. The Oregon Trail was more than a road to the West. Between 1841 and 1869, it was a test of survival against nature's most violent moods.